This webinar today is Standardize Your IT Knowledge Base with NinjaOne Documentation. Today's presenters, so you have myself, Nick Stefano. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at NinjaOne. And then we have Luke Whitelock, Senior Product Lead at NinjaOne as well, especially for the documentation product. So, agenda for today. So, we are going to dive into all things documentation. First, why we'll discuss why a documentation product is useful and what benefits it can provide for you and your team. Second, we'll discuss three use cases for documentation, and we'll have Luke kind of show them off within NinjaOne Documentation and show kind of how we can help you walk through those use cases and set them up in our platform. Next, we will go over a quick recap of what we discussed. And we'll end with an interactive Q&A session. So for that Q&A session, feel free to throw any questions in the Q&A portion. I'll be mostly reading them from that part. Probably once we get towards the end, if there's anything relevant throughout Luke demoing, I'll make sure, I'll stop and I'll ask some questions there. But for the most part, I'll be reading them off of the Q&A part. So feel free to drop them into that motion as well. And then I'll bring JP back in for a giveaway at the end. But before we get going, I want to kick off with a poll for the group. Let's see here. All right. So feel free to answer that. Again, I'll just read it off. So how are you organizing your documentation today? First one, using a doc tool. Second, using a wiki. 3, using spreadsheets. And then 4, not using one, AKA asking one of your colleagues in the office. So as we're kind of going, do a nice little kind of live thing here. Seems like Luke so far using a doc tool is the #1 answer, like 56%, which is good to see. All right. We'll give that another few seconds here and then keep going. Thank you guys for participating. It looks good. All right. Seems like so far, doc tool still #1 with 57%. We got spreadsheets coming in second with 24%. And then using a colleague and using a wiki are right there. Awesome. All right, perfect. So, yeah, final numbers. That's about where we finished out. Using a doc tool, still #1 answer. So thank you guys for participating there. But we will keep going. Keep that in mind as we go forward. All right. So first one here. What is IT documentation? Why it's useful? So most people probably know, but want to just kind of walk through, what it is, just set a baseline. So it's a comprehensive collection of written materials that explain, guide, and support the use, maintenance, and troubleshooting of IT systems, processes, endpoints, and software. That's kind of like an official definition. However, it's simple. It's simply a repository of all your materials that help your tech solve issues faster, really without wasting time searching for procedures or steps, right? So why is it useful? It makes it simple to standardize repeatable processes, improve tech efficiency by not wasting time looking for answers that, maybe they come across pretty often, some critical answers. And it gives techs instant access to critical info for key solutions, or in situations where times may be of the essence, right? So that's just kind of what IT documentation is in a nutshell and why it's useful. But now that we discussed what IT doc is and why it's useful, let's start diving into a few use cases for implementing a documentation solution that can really help your business going forward. So first one here, this is going to be a #1 use case. First one is going to be around building out your knowledge base, right? So this is generally done at the global level for all top-level procedures or important business-level documents. The walkthrough steps here, so any of the steps that are kind of, as Luke goes through the demo, really just broken down into a few bullet points here, are going to include the following. One is going to create global and per organization knowledge base articles. The second will be organize articles into a folder structure for easy navigation. 3 is going to be keep track of the revision history of documents so you know which ones are frequently being updated or accessed. 4, build up relations between items inside NinjaOne, right? So you want to build up those relationships, which Luke will show off. And then 5, share articles via links or via the end user portal. So when you really break this down, why is this important, right? So the overall theme of the use case is to create customized wikis to collect and store your most important docs and files, right? So it really allows you to organize those critical documents at a global and even an org level. This also allows your text to be more productive by having crucial documents easily accessible and even shareable to the end user, say for ones that may allow for self-remediation. And then the last one is easy navigation through a folder structure and relationships, which really allows for pairing of frequently used devices and documents, which really effectively eliminates wasted time, kind of searching around, jumping back and forth, say that one particular device always has this issue. It really gets rid of kind of even those critical seconds that just compounded over an extended period of time lead up to a whole bunch. So with that, I am going to kind of see it in action here. I'll hand it over to Luke. So again, that first use case is building out your knowledge base. Now, while Luke's going through that, if you would like, if you guys have any, best, use cases, best practices that you guys use for your own documentation, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. But Luke, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. So yeah, so as Nick was saying, first thing we want to look at is the knowledge base. So this is really your day-to-day documentation where you store like your troubleshooting guides, your like standard procedures, like things like where you want to start having your just general bits of information where you need it quick access to get your problem solved and get things like making your technicians work as efficiently as possible. So in Ninja, we've got 2 places where we store knowledge base. So under your dashboard, we've got the global knowledge base, where this is where most of your things will go. This is your shared knowledge base, your big pool of knowledge where everything is then cross-referenced and will contain like all the standard things that you need to know. What we also have is underneath each organization, we've got a separate org knowledge base. So here you can then start storing the information which is specific to one specific organization, one specific customer. But yeah, today I'll focus mainly on the global knowledge base because this is the one where most things will happen. So starting with, we've got the option to add a couple of things here. So you can do create new folders, create new documents, which are like native Ninja documents, and you can upload some documents. So if you make a new document, it's pretty simple. You just give it a name. And then we have a WYSIWYG editor with various different features. You can customize how it will look. You can paste in like Word documents if you wanted. You can insert GIFs and you can do images and build up your documentation to store what you need. So if you want to have a look at one that I made earlier. So these are all the different things you can do with the editor. We've recently upgraded the editor, so it's now a lot nicer to work with and it's much more enjoyable to make documents. In the view mode, we've got a couple of ways that you can see your documents. So by default, we give a little like a contracted view, so it's easier for people to read and understand. We also let you expand it if you prefer just taking up all the screen space that you can. Really up to your technicians there. So one thing that we do have in the knowledge base is when you come in and edit, you can come in and make a change. And we'll cache all of these changes. So if your browser crashes or you lose the internet, you'll still have the changes here when you come back. It's stored in your local browser session. So as long as your disk isn't full, you'll be able to cache these changes if anything happens. So if we save this, we've then got the updated document here. And if obviously someone's come in, wiped out a document by mistake, we have a full version history. So you can see who changed what at what time. So we come back to a previous version. Go back to a different previous version. If we go back to this one. Here we can go back to the version, view all the previous versions, and if we want, we can make it the primary version again here. So we can restore that. The next part of knowledge base that we've got is for being able to organize and move things around. So if you wanted to reorganize things, you can just tick whatever you want, go to move, and then you can either move it into an organization or you can just come browse, go into your global one and just find whichever folder you want to move things to. Just to make it, we all know like documentation evolves over time. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to tidy it up, get things in the right place and just make sure everything's organized and quick to find. Next up, if you don't like just doing native, like what you see is what you get edited documents, what we provide is the option to upload Microsoft documents into the knowledge base. So here, that's then the upload document option. You can come in here, upload any of your Word, Excel, or PowerPoint documents. And then when you come in, you initially get a view mode where you can just view the documents, or you can come in here and edit them. And then you just do an online edit, which saves straight back into Ninja. So if you do that, if you look up here, it will save back to Ninja immediately. And if we close that, this will then go update. And once it's finished, we have a little pause here while we do the update because we're running it through a virus check just to make sure nothing's malicious come in. And then as you can see, we've got the updated document here. Again, this is all versioned history, so you can go back to all the previous versions of it. Just again, if everyone always makes, like everyone will make mistakes, so we've just got that safety mechanism there to protect it. So yeah, so now more how you use it day to day. So say in England, there's a widely known accounting software called Sage Accounts, which is always a bit of a nightmare to support. So let's say we've had someone phone up, say they want to have a reset of their password. So we can do a search here in the top search bar, which is going to search for names across documents. All the documentation items are available here by the name. So we can come in here and we can say, okay, reset a forgotten Sage password. So here we've gone to the document. This is one where it's like something the user can do themselves. So we could want to share that out to them. So what we can do here, come in here, choose the share option, create a new link, and we can just call it a temporary link. And let's say we can either make it never expire, so these will be permanent links you can reuse, or we can say expire on a specific date or after a certain amount of time. So let's say we want to give this person access to this document for 1 week. We'll add the link. We can then copy that link and send this to a customer, when if they browse to it, they then just get a read-only anonymous access to see this file and read that documentation. We include the logo if you've got a branding logo set up. I made this beautiful one this morning. So yeah, that's one way that we can get the information to customers. Say the next issue is like, you don't want to have to be reactive to this. You want customers to be able to solve their problems themselves. So what we can do, oh yeah, one thing I'll just mention as well is now that we've created the share link, we're putting in a banner just to let you know this is now publicly shared. End users will be able to see this, just to give your techs a head up so that they shouldn't put any sensitive information in there that they don't want customers to see. We just try to make it as obvious as possible that it's being shared. So if we come back up to this next level, we've got this Sage 50 accounts folder. What we can do is say, actually, I want my users to self-service themselves. I want them to be able to see this documentation all the time. We can come into here and we can say, share this folder with any end users who've got the documentation access role. There's 2 options we give people here. So you can either display the contents without a folder, which means at the top level, we'll just put everything under this folder into there. Or we can say display it with a folder, in which case we'll put that Sage 50 accounts folder into the end user portal. So if we do that, and then come into the end user portal, we can see we've now got this Sage 50 accounts. Oh, I ticked it the wrong way. We put it at the top level. If we untick it, that will then put it in the folder. Let me just go back and do that. Oh, without a folder. Yeah, so if you do that, we'll show it in the folder, and then we'll have Sage inside the folder here. So if we go in, the users can then browse the knowledge base themselves, and they can troubleshoot their problem, hopefully themselves, without having to log a ticket or get you involved in the process. So the next thing we can do here is there's a common problem that will happen with Sage where you need to have a local machine running a special service to be able to troubleshoot problems. So what can frequently happen is they'll have one device in the org and there'll be like an issue with the service, so you want to go and troubleshoot it. So what you can do inside Ninja is use this unrelated item engine. So you can relate to many different items across Ninja. Our plan in the future is to introduce being able to see them at every single level. At the moment, you can see them in the documentation items and in devices, but you'll soon be able to see them in like organizations, locations, et cetera, et cetera. So here we can then associate this document with a device, which then means whenever we're looking at this device, inside the related items, we've got that link to that document. So you can start building up documentation specific to devices, link it with related items, and as soon as you're supporting that device, looking at any problems, you've got those standard troubleshooting guides just available as you're working on the device itself. So the next one we can do, I've shown off searching by name. So this will search for things just by their title. If you want to do a more in-depth search, what we can do is go to the knowledge base level, and then we can do a full content search of everything inside the knowledge base. So if you do a search for something like a Microsoft KB number, you can come in here, it will find any documents which contain that. And you can then look and view the context of where was that text that you search for actually used inside the document. Just to give you that fine grained drilling in, like you don't know what the document is, but you know what it is, what the kind of information is in it. So you could come in here, do the full search, and it's uses a dictionary, so you don't have to search for the exact words. We'll try and look and find words which are similar, just to help you try and surface up the right document. And yeah, I think that is pretty much everything around KB articles at the moment. I'll hand back to Nick.
Perfect. Thanks, Luke. All right. So, there are, a bunch of questions going on in Q&A, so thank you. Perfect. So the second use case is going to be tracking repeatable processes with checklists, right? So the steps here, again, kind of boiling it down to just, three kind of main steps here. First one is going to be, you know, create checklist templates inside NinjaOne Documentation to outline your repeatable processes with multiple steps and full task descriptions, right? So you have the ability to really get granular with your checklists, break them down into however many steps you need, based on each individual process. The second is going to be create instances inside each organization to be able to assign checklists and tasks to specific technicians. So again, you can assign the full task, the full checklist to a technician, or you can assign each individual task within that checklist to a technician as well. Luke, again, will show that off. You also have the ability to set due dates by each individual task to ensure completion. Final one is track the completion progress of checklists to understand the status at each stage. Pretty cool UI. Luke will show off as well. But as you complete each thing, you have a progress bar that allows for easy tracking. So, again, why is this one important? So, it ensures the completion of your text repeatable processes, makes it as easy as possible to track and complete routine tasks. So again, just taking away a layer of something that might just be monotonous over and over again, just makes it super easy and keeps track of anything that a tech might have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Second one, frees up your text to focus on strategic initiatives by removing blockers for routine processes that are faced all the time. So again, just moving blockers as much as possible, streamlining the process, making your text as efficient, and getting rid of anything that kind of causes an eye roll left or right. And the final one is going to be allows you to assign these checklists and each individual task within those checklists to ensure the tasks are completed by, say, either the most qualified team member for that specific task, or say you're working on expanding technician skill sets with tasks, say, they maybe don't do as often. So you have the ability to really, take whatever approach you would like, but it's either, giving to your techs that they know this like the back of their hand, or if you have, a new tech and you're working on giving them the ability to, complete some of these processes and expanding their skill sets. So again, with that, I'll hand it back over to Luke to go over use case number 2. And again, track your repeatable processes with checklists.
Awesome. So yeah, so checklists inside Ninja, these are items which are going to live underneath an organization. So unlike the global knowledge base, when you're working on checklists, we do have a global template library for checklists. So if you go into the NinjaOne Documentation admin area, we've got the ability to create like checklist templates here that you can use. So if you go back into an organization, what we can do here is we can come in and add a checklist. So we can choose to either create a new one where we'd create it from scratch in the org, or we can choose to import a template. So if we come in here, I'm going to choose to import this template. I'm going to come here and I'm going to just rename it quickly. No, I'm going to go into it and I'll rename it when we edit it. So in here, what you can do is you can then see all the steps have been imported. We've got no due dates or assignees yet for them, but let's come in here and edit them. So in here, I can name it then a specific onboarding guide for this company. So I can track that this is a specific version for just this company. I can add in an extra step, like saying install line of business app. And then I can give full details on exactly how the task should be completed. So this is our same, like what you see is what you get editor. So you can do exactly the same documentation that you do anywhere else. You can do all the formatting. I saw a question on this, which is, can you paste images in line? And yes, you can. So if I take a quick screenshot of this, paste that in there, you can then put in screenshots, any images that you want. These can be as long as you'd like as well. So you can build up in-depth steps of how to do stuff. So a tech who's done the process a lot of times can just tick off and make sure they don't miss any steps. Whereas a tech carrying out for the first time can go through, read in detail exactly how to carry out everything. So if you save this, what we've now got here is a new org level onboarding checklist template. So we can then say, this I'll just use as my template. I want to do a new instance of it whenever we get a new user. So I can come here and just choose to copy this one. I can then say, remove template from the name, and I can say onboarding Luke, for example. Copy that checklist, and I'll get a brand new instance of it ready to actually complete. So in the view mode here, you can come in, expand and see your steps, see any of the images, see all the description and information. And then your team lead or whoever's managing the project can come in, assign due dates for each subtask, and they can then assign it to specific technicians. So in here, I'll assign it to myself. We also give the option to be able to send email notifications. So when you tick this, it's going to then send an email out to that technician saying, you've been assigned to something, can you go do this work? So they're aware of it. In here, you can then set a global due date for having everything completed on the checklist. And at the management level, you can also then assign a checklist to the overall owner of the whole checklist. And again, you can do the notification to let them know they've been assigned. As you work on a checklist, you can just come in and you simply tick off things as you do them, and that will slowly update and increment the progress of how far you've got. Also, what you can do, you can come in here and you can relate items. So you could relate it to an end user, to say this is the user that I set up. You can come in and you can relate it to the device to say this is the device that's associated with the new user that we set up. This is going to be their device going forwards. And yeah, that's the core of checklists. So once you've then finished the checklist, you've got a customized template that you've made just for this organization. You can either choose just to keep it in the org and copy it as you need, or what you can do is then promote it back into that central library. So if you choose to promote, we can assign it a name and we can confirm that, and that's now stored back in our repository where we can come in and just say, okay, I want to use this company's onboarding template to create a new checklist from there. So yeah, that is checklists.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. All right. Now, for the final use case, we have building out structured documentation across organizations. So this is a fun one, includes some custom field options and allows you to really to customize what you specifically need, a bit more. And so the steps include the following. Again, like I said, everything kind of Luke is showing off, just for viewing purposes, kind of break it down to 4 easy steps. And just to mention, since we're at the last use case, as we get towards the end, there is a quote unquote companion blog that goes along with this webinar that has all of these use cases, steps, etc. included in there. But for this specific step or use case, we have number 1, create templates for apps and services documentation made up of custom fields to track the core info you need across your orgs. Second is going to be import predefined items from a curated library. Third one will be get notified when required documents have not been completed. And the fourth one will be utilize our comprehensive API and CLI to automatically populate information. So again, why is this important? This is important because it helps to streamline documentation that is applicable to multiple organizations that you manage, right? So the first one is, you can have structured documentation across your orgs, along with docs that are specific to certain organizations. It allows you to tailor specific documents to specific organizational or client needs without having to build that out at the global level. And then finally, it can enhance efficiency and provide your team with standardized, up-to-date, and timely documentation, really making sure everything that you need is ready to go whenever you need it, whether it's for routine tasks or something a little more critical. And with that, I'll hand it back off to Luke for our last use case demo. So again, use case 3, build out structured documentation across organizations.
Brilliant. Just 1 second, if I can remember how to share my screen. Okay, so yeah, this last part of documentation is really what I see is like the most important one. This is where you can really build your standardized, repeatable information you need to know about every customer. So this is where you can really accelerate your like solving problems. You want to know when a tech's coming to solve a problem, they want to know like how is this customer set up? What is their configuration? What software are we selling to them? Um, all of these questions that they have. So if you're supporting a lot of clients, keeping techs can't keep track of that by themselves. They'd have to go ask other people if you're not tracking it. It just become a nightmare. So to solve that, we have apps and services documents. So these are where you can essentially build up repeatable forms to fill out to collect the data you need to know about every organization. So a good example of this is Active Directory. You want to know like things like what are my DNS servers? Where's my like schema master roles? Which service have got which roles? What's my domain recovery password? What's the domain names? What's the short domain names, etc. So this is the facility that lets you build up that information. So if you go into documentation admin, this is where we can then see all the templates that we've got. So if you go to manage templates, we provide some that you can just import directly. You can edit them and tweak them to your exact use cases after you've imported them. But this just gives you some core items to get you started so you can start documenting. Have a look at this example template. So this is one where I've made a template which has one of each field. You've got the option to have list of pages or not list of pages. So a list of pages allows you to do multiple instances per organization. If you untick that, it's only going to let you do one per organization. So a list of pages will be things like your Wi-Fi network. So you can document your guest network, your main network. And then a non-listed page will be things like what services do I sell this customer? So in here, we've got list of pages. So this will let us make multiple. If we have a look here, the different types, we've got like files associated, dates, checkboxes, being able to link to devices, build up drop downs where you can do either drop downs or multiple select ones, track email addresses, link to orgs. Secure fields are ones where you can securely store a password. We audit any access to them. They're stored encrypted. We can't access them ourselves. You can only access them through the UI. If we look into these, we've got some, you'll see we've got advanced settings on some fields. So if you come in here for the secure fields, you can configure like the complexity rules around it. Another example of that is the device fields. If you go into here, you can then choose to limit them by like what types of devices can be selected and even limit them to which specific organizations can you pick from. Also configure things like description, tooltips, and footer text. And then the last field that I really love is the what you see is what you get field, which is again just that generic editor. If you're using automations, you can just set HTML in it, and we provide some classes and extra libraries where you can really supercharge what you can do with that, but I'll show you that later. And then we also have UI elements which you can put in, so you can do separators, titles, and descriptions, so you can then organize the structure inside that one page to break it up into sections to make it easier to understand. So yeah, so let's have a look what that actually looks like in practice. So if we go into the organization, on here on the left, we've then got that example template listed here, and we can come in, see that I made one document here and go into it. And then you can see we've got all those fields filled out with all the different types that they've got. When you reveal a secure field, it's going to prompt you for 2FA, just so you can make sure that someone's not left their session logged in and they're just trying to, and that someone's grabbing all the passwords out of it. Yeah, so the next part of this is, let me just check my notes. Yeah, let's go create a template so I can show off exactly how some other bits of this work. So if we come in and choose to add a template, let's first make one for tracking service packages or customer configuration. So let's come in and add a field. Let's call this actually like client settings or something, or client details. That's probably more accurate. So in here, let's first add in a drop-down field and let's call it service package. So if we come in here and we'll do a just a drop-down, and we can come in and create some values of like basic, standard, and let's do premium as well. We can then make standard to be the default, so that'll be selected whenever you're creating one. And then let's add that field, and then let's come in and add another field for, let's say, like if we're selling them Huntress. So here we can start to build out exactly what are we selling to a customer, understanding what package have they bought from us, what add-ons have they got, and just being able to track that information. So when a tech's supporting someone, they can immediately hop into this page, see, okay, we're selling them this, this, and this. This is what the problem could be. This is what I need to know to be able to support them. So we do a drop-down box here again, and let's do a checkbox for this one. And then let me talk you through some of these options we've got here. So for access, we've got the ability to allow automation. So these are your scripts that run on devices from Ninja. When we install the Ninja agent, we also put in a Ninja CLI tool. And this CLI tool lets you read and write to certain fields. Here we can set to be, if you set it to have read access, every device in that organization will be able to read this value. So what you can then pair this with is being able to have a script which runs and says, should this device be running Huntress? Query this value and say, oh yes, this is set to yes, it's ticked. So then I can check that Huntress is installed. If it's not installed, I can go run that installer and just make sure the device gets configured just from all the devices get configured from a central repository. API is similar. It's the same settings, but allowing whether or not you can access them via the public API. And again, we've got options around required or just setting extra descriptive fields for that text. So if we save that, we've now got that new client details page set up. So yeah, so if we go to the org, we can have a look there. So at the moment, you see it's not here. It's because we've got this show unused option on. So you can either choose to only show ones which have been filled out. So this is when you're in support mode. I need to just see the information that's actually complete. I don't care about all the ones which aren't complete. If you're in the mode of like trying to actually fill out and populate the documentation, you can come in here and just enable to see everything. So go into client details, come in here, can make sure it's set to standard, and we can say, yes, this customer should have Huntress. And those settings are now saved. Next level of this is we can say, well, actually, I probably don't want all my technicians to be able to see these details. I'd only want like for, let's say if I made a template for break glass accounts. So I could track things like my AD recovery passwords, like a local device admin recreate, things like that, and say, well, maybe actually I only want my third line engineers to be able to view that information. So what we can come in here and do is, I'll just do it for this one to show, but if we come in and edit this template, we've got this option by default, it's set to available to all technicians. What we can do is come in here and then say, actually, I only want my third line engineers to be able to see this template, save that, and then only your third line engineers will get access to that data. So it just means you can build up fine-grained controls around exactly who can see what, allowing you to store more sensitive data in here that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Yeah, so then the next side of this is half documentation. It's done by the documentation team, but it's available in Core Ninja, is our custom fields. So these let you expand on objects that exist in Ninja, like devices, organizations, locations, to add in extra fields like we had there. You've got the same options of adding in fields of any type, being able to then extend the information you see at a device level. So if we go have a look at a device here, go to the custom fields. I've got some examples here. So this is an example of one of the things you can do with what you see is what you get field. We've got a chart library included, so you can build up some charts. We've got like the performance data one, which I was messing around with, which I apparently broke and need to fix. And alert heat map, so being able to see, oh, no, this was testing the graph one again. But yeah, being able to extend that contextual information at the device level to make this super easy, to just see what you need. You can again do just settings here. It doesn't have to be swanky things that you populate with scripts. It can just be information that you need to know about a device. So yeah, so looking at this, the other side of documentation here is like, it's all well and good setting things manually, but documentation's only as good as when it was last updated. So coming back to the thing where I was talking about the automation options and the API options, we've got a full API built out for everything in Ninja documentation. So with 6.0, there's now everything, no items in documentation you can't edit via the API. So you can really just automate any process that you want, generate any documentation you want. So one good example of this is with our SIP integration. So if you've not seen it, this will set some fields inside Ninja. So you get links straight back to admin port, to like the admin portals into SIP, see some core tenant information, get like user insights. And what that's doing is coming in and creating some documentation, apps and services documents to document the items you've got inside Intune. So if you have a look here, you can see we've got user information, see details in their mailbox, get ideas of what groups they're in, and then also we'll do related items to relate them to their device. So if we hop to their device, we then populate some custom fields for Intune where you then just get links straight back to the device and get device details like what their compliance policies are. So yeah, that is the core apps and services things. So yeah, what our real goal with Ninja documentation is just to make it as easy as possible to get the documentation automated, to get everything in there that you could need, as well as trying to make it a nice experience to work with when it's things that can't be automated. So another good example is Cloudflare. So on my blog, I've got a script which shows which will generate all this information for you if you're using Cloudflare. This lets me show you another thing that we can actually do that we've just introduced in 6.0. So with here, we've got as a related item type, we've got secure fields. So what you can do is you can come in here, you can add a password in. And what we've added with 6.0 is the ability to also track your TOTP secrets. So in here, you can do the like, I can't scan the QR code now, copy the secret, paste it in here, and then you'll be able to share it with your technicians. So if we share that, if you save this, and then when we come into view here, it'll ask for 2FA every time because we're accessing an MFA code. So we didn't want to bypass MFA by having no MFA. So whenever you view an item which has got the secure fields, we want to do an MFA check. So let me just paste in my code. And in here, you then get the TOTP codes. We keep the secret server side, so we're only ever sending the generated codes down to clients. So you're not at risk of leaking the secrets to any of the technicians. We've also, to support this and to support everything in documentation, we have fine-grained permission rules inside the general Ninja roles. So if we go into technician roles, have a look here, you can see you can control what level of access each of your techs get to different documentation items, including if they're allowed to see TOTP codes or not. Those TOTP codes are restricted to whichever org they're in. So as long as the technician has to have access to an org to see them. And then, yeah, one last thing I wanted to talk about is it's all well and good having all your documentation in Ninja, but how can you get that out? So what we've introduced in 6.0 is we have another feature called runbooks where you can do a PDF export of just the information you want. So if we come in here, we can do create a runbook, give it a description if you want, pick which technicians you want to send it to. And then we have some choices around what we want to include. So you can export all your global articles, you can do just the KB articles inside organizations, or you can do apps and services documents, or you can do everything. You also have the choice of if you want to include secure fields, limit it just to one organization if you wanted, and you can also then limit it down to specific just apps and services templates if you only wanted to pull out a small subset of information. So this just means you can take a backup if you want, you can do handover documentation, you can do internal documentation for co-managed situations, and yeah, just make it nice and easy. Also, with the 6.0 release, once we finish rolling it out, I've been working on a backup tool where you'll just be able to automate an entire backup of everything, have it in an offline available readable, a readable form where it just be an HTML browser, so you can still access stuff if things are offline. And yeah, and then one last thing I wanted to show you is what we've got coming next. So right now, we've been working on adding in the ability to archive items. So this is going to be across all the documentation items. So you'll be able to archive knowledge base documents, folders, apps and services documents, the templates, checklists, checklist templates. You'll just be able to archive and restore everything. When archived, it's essentially just hidden. And then you can choose whether or not you want to make it visible and just browse it as you would normally. And then we've also gated the ability to delete anything to having to be archived first. So you'd have to archive something and then delete it. So the archive also essentially acts as a recycle bin before you permanently delete anything. We've also expanded, like we had with end user sharing, we've added the ability to restrict knowledge base folders to just specific technicians. So this means in your global knowledge base, you could now have like a contracts folder and limit it just to text who you can see that. You could have like an HR folder and start to limit that off. We've also been busy trying to finish off reworking all the UI items. So for the first thing that we've done for the next release, or it'll be the release towards the end of the year even, is we've reworked related items. So as you can see in this knowledge base here, we've got related items on the right. This is going to move to a little button and a hover over like with a card, like with help. So you'll just be able to bring them up when you want. That's what it looks like. So you'll give a count and things. We've reworked all of the apps and services UI, so these look a lot nicer and a lot easier to interact with. And we've also reworked custom fields, so they look a lot more pleasant to work with. And then the last thing that we've introduced is we brought in dashboard level information on checklists and documents. So we've promoted, it's grayed out here because I opened a modal, but we've introduced a top level widget. Instead of it being hidden at the bottom, we've moved documentation to the top. We have modals that now link and show you exactly which documents and which orgs have issues, which checklists you need to look at, which are overdue, which are required and not being completed, just to let you track a lot easier what exactly is going on. And yeah, I will stop talking and start answering some questions.
Awesome. Thank Luke. All right. So just a quick recap. I'll blow through this because I know we got a ton of questions actually in Q&A. So I want to spend most of our remaining time on that. But just as a recap, standardize your IT knowledge base. Why is IT documentation useful? Makes it simple to standardize processes, improve efficiency, and give techs instant access to critical info. And then just a recap of the use cases that we went over today. One was building out your knowledge base, create customized wikis to collect and store your most important docs and files. Use case two that Luke walked through was track repeatable processes with checklists, so ensure completion of your text repeatable processes. And the last one that we just reviewed, use case number three, build out structured documentation across organizations, streamline documentation applicable to multiple orgs. And with that, we will start, we'll jump into the Q&A and we will start going over. So we got a ton of questions. Thank you guys. I'll start right from the top, Luke, if you want. First question from Mac is where will there be a mobile access to documentation?
Yep. I would love that if I was able to do this on myself, but it's another team working on the mobile app. So yeah, I have constantly been beating them and they're working on it now. Today in the new Ninja Assist app, which I think is in beta at the moment, end users will be able to access KB articles that are shared with them. We're looking at the first half of next year to have technicians accessing all the documentation articles in the new app as well. So yes, it's being worked on. Will be first half of next year.
Perfect. All right. And then similar question from Cliff. Will the mobile app support knowledge base articles and documents?
So yeah, the plan is for it to support knowledge base articles, apps and services documents, and checklists as well. I'm not sure if they'll all come out at the same time, but that is the plan, that everything will be available in the end.
Awesome. All right. Question from Nathan. If you restore to a previous version, so when we're doing, do the versions between that and the current version stay in the previous versions?
Yes, absolutely. We don't ever delete any versions. When you restore, it will still keep anything newer, allowing you to hop around, and like we didn't want to risk deleting any newer versions when you go to an older one. So yes, they will still be there.
Perfect. All right. Question from Oliver. Does the search bar search the contents of a document or just the title?
So the global search in the top of the Ninja app will just search by title and objects. In the search bar, when you're looking at a knowledge base, that will then do a full text search and search inside the contents. We're looking to extend that to apps in the future, but I don't have a time exactly when that will be.
Perfect. All right. Question from Cliff. How will your new relationship with Halo PSA affect NinjaOne's internal KB Docs abilities?
So I don't really see us as a competitor around that area. Like we're focused on the automation of documentation, like the checklist side of things, and especially the apps and services documents, which isn't really something Halo's interested in. They're more just a knowledge base. So I think we will end up working hand in hand. I assume we may build an integration to sync knowledge bases at some point in the future. We work closely with the Halo guys, so we get on very well, and I don't see why we wouldn't try and work closely.
Awesome. All right, question from Brian. Can images be uploaded directly to a folder without adding them to a document?
So today it's Microsoft Documents and PDFs that can go straight into a document. Images you can add, you'd either have to create a document or you could add them as a related item to another object. So you could do add an image as a related item to a device, or you could add it as a related item to an apps and services document or something else there. But no, not directly today. It's something that we can look to in the future, but it's not planned right now.
Awesome. All right, next question. What are the supported upload types that can be viewed inline?
So yeah, so it's the core Microsoft documents, so Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint presentations, and then PDFs, native Ninja documents that you create.
Perfect. Next question, is Markdown supported?
So today, no, but when we did the new what you see is what you get editor, one of the requirements we had is to make sure Markdown is supported, so we can introduce it in the future. If you want to see Markdown, please leave us some feedback. I'll post the link to the our roadmap in chat where you can just leave feedback. Um, but yeah, that'd be something I'd love to add, but it's something I need to build a case for to be able to do.
Awesome. Is NinjaOne Documentation aimed to replace our current doc tools? If not, can it?
It's absolutely aimed to replace your existing ones. We feel we've got to a point now where we've hit pretty much all the core functionality you need to actually use it as a day-to-day documentation tool. So yes, absolutely, you can replace your current tool with Ninja Docs.
All right. Another mobile app question, which we answered already. Next one is I'm looking any integration feature like an IT glue, saving username and password to be able to log in remotely for the tech team.
Yep, so that's something we've got the ability. You can do secure fields through related items, so you can store that information. You can also do secure custom fields on both devices, organizations, locations, and you can do secure fields in apps and services documents. So we've got a variety of ways you can do it. We're looking to integrate these further with Ninja Remote in the future. So you'll be able to just use those passwords directly, like anything related to a device, you'd be able to pick those up and just inject them into a Ninja Remote session later on.
Perfect. All right. Next question. When assigning a task on a checklist, is there a way to notify a technician that a task is due?
So today we're only sending out that initial email to let them know they've been assigned. The plan is we want to integrate checklists closer with ticketing in the future, and at which point that'll be something we'll be able to do with like ticketing automation rules and following things up that way. Coming in the release towards the end of the year, and we've got that new dashboard which I showed off, where you'll be able to see at the global dashboard any checklists which aren't complete or any that are overdue. You'll be able to also see that level when you at the device at the organization dashboard to be able to see at an org, this is what work is outstanding, this is overdue, and to be able to work off things that way.
Awesome. Next question. Is there a way to import your data from IT Glue into Ninja Documentation?
Um, we have a very open API which will support doing that if anyone wants to write the script. In the past, I have written a script to go from IT Glue to Hoodoo. So it's something I'm working on in my spare time, but we'll see what it ends up looking like. So I am working on building some like open source migration tools to make things easier. I'm not sure if it will be a direct IT Glue import tool. It might just be a more generic tool to help you out with things. But yeah, coming soon.
Perfect. All right. Is there a way to link a checklist to a ticket? For example, a ticket has been opened for a new hire. We'd like to link the ticket to the checklist in related.
Um, as I mentioned, absolutely something we want to do. We're figuring out exactly how tasks look on tickets at the moment. And then it's basically deciding how checklists then interact with those. So yes, it's something that we're going to do. I don't have any answer to exactly when it's going to be or what it will look like, but it is something being actively worked on now.
All right. Some other kind of similar questions, but probably in the same vein. A, can you create dependencies on the tasks, as in don't create the user until the licenses are obtained?
So at the moment, the organization is really just in the order that you can rearrange the order of tasks on the checklist. So there's not anything which creates a direct dependency today, but dependencies can be implied by the order that you order things on the checklist, and you can move tasks around as needed.
Perfect. Another ticketing documentation related question. Can you add a ticket as a related item?
It's something that we're looking at the moment. I've got a PRD written for it, so requirements written for it. It's likely to be take the form more likely probably relating items to ticketing tags. So when you assign a tag to a ticket, you'd get the associated documentation with that tag. Just to mean you can easily, like for a new user ticket, you just get all your new user documentation presented. Is how I'd say it working.
Awesome. All right. Is there a way to print the checklist once it's done?
Um, Not beyond just printing out the web page today. That'd be something I'd love to get some feedback on. So if you've got some time, I'd love to have some feedback from that link I posted in chat.
Perfect. All right. For checklists, is there a way to automate checklists so that a checklist is created automatically under a company each day?
Not yet. Again, this is something which is likely to be closely tied with ticketing when we get to doing like recurring tickets on that side. we'll probably have the ability to associate a checklist with the ticket, and then we'd recurrently like create the ticket on a recurring basis. Um, is how I see that working.
Okay. Where do you see the pending checklists?
So today you need to go into that checklist view that we got under documentation in the orgs. In the future, it'll be a dashboard widget, so you'll be able to easily see what needs attention.
Perfect. And similar question to Nathan, just is there a global place where a technician can see all tasks that are assigned to them?
Not yet. That's something we're going to look at in the future. Um, it's a wider bit of work because it needs to tie in with like, is it just checklist tasks that we show, or is it tickets as well? Is it any tasks across the platform? So it's something we're talking about, but I don't have a firm answer for yet.
All right. Question from Ian. I'm really interested in seeing the automation and integrations that are available to populate Ninja Docs. I recently learned about SIP. Any demonstrations on that available?
Yeah, me and Nick did another webinar. If you have a look, I'll try and find that and chuck it in chat. But
Yeah,
yeah, we did a webinar going through the entire SIP integration with Kelvin.
perfect. All right. Is there a closed loop so when a task or checklist is completed, it emails the PM or TAM? We kind of mentioned this already, but
Yeah, not today. It's something that we definitely want to look at in the future.
perfect. All right. And then another just kind of checklist to ticket one. Webinar will be available and emailed out. Can you create one-time passcodes to work with MFA rolling codes?
Uh, yes, that's what I showed it towards the end.
Yep.
You can just do that in secure related items now, or from the 6.0 release.
Perfect. And again, similar, does copying the password also prompt MFA? What's the MFA timeout for that?
Yes, so that now follows the admin timeout. So it's whatever you got configured in your technician security settings. By default, I believe it's 15 minutes, but you can up that if you wanted.
Perfect. All right. We answered IT glue. Is there a way to have a drop-down affect other options in a doc? For example, setting the standard plan to auto check Huntress and whatever other services that may include.
It's something that I'd love to add. If you could leave some feedback on that, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to do in the future, but not something that's planned as of yet.
Perfect. All right. Custom fields question. So can I modify the custom fields after they are saved? For example, I had a single line text box, but later discover after filling out several customers that it should be multi-line. I'd like to make the change without data loss.
Today, no, you wouldn't be able to change the type, unfortunately. Um, there are ways you can work around it. So if you did like a single line check text box as a custom field on a device, you could add in the multi-line one and then just have a script which is set to run, which would copy the value from the single line into the multi-line. I know it's not ideal, but that's the best workaround today.
Perfect. All right. Another automations question. So do the automations listed in documentation actually kick off an automation?
No, so the automations you've got listed there are permissions on whether that field can be accessed and that data accessed. What you need to do is use a script. There's various ones in the template library which make use of this, so you can see examples. But yeah, you'd essentially use a script and the Ninja CLI to access that data and then do whatever work you want based on what those values are. Um, with custom fields, you can do automations around them and schedule them against by building a device search group. So you could filter to ones which have it ticked and then target an automation against those using a scheduled task.
Perfect. All right. Another documentation checklist. I mean, checklist ticketing question. Um, let's see. Is the SIP Microsoft users info an API into the the Microsoft tenant, or is that manually entered?
So that's all done. Yeah, it's an automation. So SIP itself has API access into all your Microsoft tenants. When you set up the Ninja integration, you give it your Ninja API keys, and then SIP goes and does all the work for you. It'll generate all the reports, copy it all over from your Microsoft tenants through SIP into Ninja. So it's all automatic.
Perfect. Similar question. Do we have a document on our site for how to sync Microsoft users to documentation? And can they be synced to Ninja contacts?
So today, the how we do user sync is our SCIM integration. So you set up SSO, you set up a SIM integration, and then that would populate end users or technicians inside the platform. Today, there's not a way to have that happen with contacts, but it's something that we're looking at to do in the future.
Awesome. All right. Can you recover the deleted file from a knowledge base?
So today, no. What you'll be able to do is with archiving, essentially to delete anything, you'll have to archive it first. What we'll recommend is set everyone to not have delete permissions. Only like your sysadmin users will be able to delete them. So that means people can hide stuff by archiving it, but they wouldn't have the ability to delete. We wanted to leave in the ability to do a permanent deletion on things for situations where you've got like a GDPR compliance request come in, someone's asked for you to delete their, like you had an apps and services document dedicated to their user. You want to be able to delete that data. So that's why we left in the ability to permanently delete. But it is going to be fenced behind archiving from the release at the end of the year.
Perfect. All right. So we got, let's see, we'll run through a few more. Can you save a link directly to a particular checklist or document?
Yep, all the links are permanent. So if you just copy the URL you have for the technician side of things, you can just go straight to that document wherever you are. So yeah.
Perfect. And then would you be able to add files like RDP shortcuts or a zip file?
I'm just circling back to that last question as well. What we've actually got for all the items in documentation is the ability to favorite them as well. So you can click the little star next to their name and they'll appear on the favorites menu inside Ninja. So you can also just keep your most visited ones just permanently pinned for easy access. For IDP, zip, I believe you can add as a related item. I don't think we support IDP shortcuts today. I'll have a check of that one. But yeah, I think zip yes and IDP no.
Okay. So just a clarification question. Can the shared KB articles or documentation be publicly accessible via a custom domain?
Yep. So you can use your branded Ninja domain, so your RMM service dot whatever domain, to access them, and users can log in and do them there. You can also edit your the public share links to use that domain as well if you wanted.
Perfect. All right, let's see. Um, yes, Jeremy, the link to the SIP webinar, I believe, is on YouTube. We can see if we can drop that in the
I
link.
I did. I posted a link in the chat for it.
All right, so that's good. All right, I think we got a couple more. Any integration between Microsoft Teams and documentation?
Not today, but it's definitely something I want to do. The plan is we'll introduce activities for any action. So we've got some activities that are logged today, but I want to expose those into your like notification settings, and then you'll be able to configure like webhooks and stuff to send any updates and anything through to Teams.
Perfect. And then basically the last one is if you archive a publicly shared doc, is the link still active and able to be viewed?
I believe no. I think it removes any of the public shared links when you archive a document.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys. That was a ton of questions. We answered 38 of them. I'll bring you JP in for the last little minute here for our giveaway, and then we'll let you guys go.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Luke. That was a lightning fast Q&A. That was a ton that you got through. And don't worry, if we didn't answer something, we can go ahead and route those questions to your AMs to make sure that they get in touch with you with any other questions that you have regarding NinjaOne documentation. But before I get to the giveaway, I want to go ahead and just pop a couple of resources in the resources tab. Here's our YouTube where you can go ahead and watch any old webinars that we have. We try and upload every webinar that we do onto there. We also have the NinjaOne Discord. We're about 5K users strong, and we're always looking to add more Ninja users there. It's a great resource for scripts, for just learning tips and tricks on the newest Ninja developments. And here's our NinjaOne events calendar. So that's going to have all our upcoming webinars. The next webinar will be on the 23rd of October. We're going to be covering NinjaOne image backup, so be sure to join us for that. But for now, yes, I already see drum rolls in the chat. We're going to go ahead and announce today's winner, who will have their choice between, let me pull up my prizes here, between a Samsung soundbar with subwoofer, a iPad, and an Apple Watch. And the winner is Ron Harris. So big congrats to Ron.
Right,
Thank
Ron.
you for joining us on today's webinar, and we hope to see you at the next one. And thank you, everyone. We hope to see you, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, guys.